Welcome to Leafs Quick Hits. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And not a very busy week with games this past week, but a lot of good and not so good news when it comes to the Leafs roster. And it's also the quarter mark of the NHL season, which we will talk about that. But before we talk Leafs, we want to take some time to thank our listeners around the world.
Yes, we have quite a few listeners in very far away places. We want to thank our listeners in Buenos Aires, Argentina, New Zealand, that's Auckland, Wellington, and Otago, and Kyoto, Japan as well. And I think our listener in Japan has been with us for a long time, so we are very grateful to them. And as we all know, Leaf fans are everywhere, all around the world, and we thank you, of course, and thanks to all of our listeners from around the world. But before we move on to other business, we also want to give a shout out to at Claire Foley 754, who caught our show on YouTube, and she thanked us for our team and game analysis. We're so glad that you love the show, and we thank you so much for watching and giving us your feedback.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from these people from faraway places too. So you can find us on social media, leave us a comment or DM us at LTL1917. So now we want to tell you a bit about our show sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they happen.
With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NHL, NBA, and college basketball to UFC and MMA as well, head to betonline.ag today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please gamble responsibly, though. If you or someone you know needs some support or advice, you can reach out to Connex Ontario or an organization near you.
All right, so we're going to get into Leafs now, starting with the games versus the only two games that they had, Vegas and Utah. So with Vegas, that was the not so good news with, it was a good game. We won 3-0. It was shut out. And, but with the Nyes injury, I don't know. I still think that he left his feet, that Zach Whitecloud. It doesn't matter how frame by frame they did it sort of thing, right? I understand it's the way the player is moving and on the skates and how I guess the force could have made him appear that he jumped up and hit him right in the jaw. But and then I found it funny too that the NHL player safety had to put out a video to explain it, right? It's just like, yeah, whatever.
Well, I guess the focus really was on the hit to the head more so than whether he left his feet or not. And I just thought it was hilarious. Like when they were showing it on Sportsnet afterwards, they kept showing how he didn't leave his feet, but they didn't show his feet at all. So I thought that was kind of hilarious. But I guess what they're saying is, but everybody who's talking about this hit, anybody who's connected to the NHL as far as broadcasting, is that the force went through the body and up through the body to the head, which technically is not an illegal hit, even though it hit his head.
Right.
Whereas the Reeves hit, they're saying he picked his head, which to me, I think is absolutely a horrible way to say it because it makes it sound like he intended to hit his head. But that's not the case. I don't think that there's any way that he intended to. It's just they were coming in at angles. And so Darnell Nurse had his head down and Reeves was coming around a corner. And so his head was the first point of contact, which I guess with Nyes, they're saying that it wasn't because he technically went up through the body and then hit his head.
Well, no, Anthony Stewart.
But to me, that's all gray area.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
If it's a hit to the head, it's a hit to the head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we doing here?
Bottom line. Yeah. And Anthony Stewart said, Reeves is not a person that goes to pick out to do a headshot sort of thing. So he's not. Picker. No,
I actually was offended by the way they keep saying it, even though I guess that's the lingo and the terminology.
Yeah.
But
it's because it's Ryan Reeves. It's because of that, basically.
And I was actually surprised too how much offense Darnell Nurse took to it.
I know.
Too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was too. Yeah. Because they're apparently.
Because they know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've trained with each other. So do you really think that he's I don't know. Maybe it's all just rhetoric or whatever. Anyway, I guess people who enjoy hockey, this is the kind of stuff that fuels rivalry and things. So for the fans will probably, get some good energy out of it down the road when we play them again. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Anyway, I was happy to see that Nyes is recovering pretty quickly. I was concerned though, because he's had, a pretty bad concussion before, at least one that we know of. So it's never good to have multiple.
He was on the ice today on Sunday. So that was good to see. And,
he could be back.
He's still out for Wednesday because he's on the IR
back
or
by
whatever.
The weekend though. So that's actually pretty quick, which is good news.
Yeah.
So,
And the other good news is that Fraser Minton and Nikita Grabenkin, or Grabionkin, I don't know. I think
from what I've read, he wants the pronunciation and the spelling Grabenkin. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I
anyways,
think it's something similar to Shesterkin. I guess Shesterkin technically has a Y in his name too, but I guess because of our alphabet and the pronunciation, they want it written this way so that people pronounce it properly.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, they both got called up because of all these injuries and everything, and they played on. Nikita Grabenkin got his first game in the NHL on the Wednesday night versus Vegas, and Fraser Minton, he was called up. He was playing really well with the Marlies, anyways, and because we're short on depth at center, obviously, as well, he got called up with David Kampf going on the IR, and he got his first NHL goal, so that was great. And, they didn't look out of place. I mean, Nikita Grabenkin, he's just a energy guy. I think it's the whole thing. I think his most popular thing was the back check, forecheck, paycheck. Right?
Yeah.
That whole line. And then his laugh afterwards.
I can't get enough of watching that. Like it makes me smile every time. And he was really, with Reeves out, he was the perfect guy to bring up, because that's what, Reeves provides is that kind of energy, not just on the ice, but in the room and all of that. Although I still see him, I guess he's still allowed to do his like high fives before they come out or something. I saw him doing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that he's there to replace some of that energy. No, neither of them looked out of place to me. So
no, for the minutes that they played, I think Minton obviously is getting more minutes
because of the power play, which he got a lot of time tonight. That's for sure. Yeah. We're recording on the Sunday right after the Utah game, if anyone's wondering.
Yeah, so let's get to that Utah game. We'll leave the Vegas game, even though Joseph Wall, we will mention, obviously got the shutout that night, so that was good too. And then, so going to this Utah game, the huge news, of course, was with the Nylander brothers getting together in their first NHL game, playing together. And I was actually trying to look up in history. I got it all. Well, I was close. I guess it was the Inachak brothers that I thought were the last pair of brothers to play with the Leafs, but it was the Yaremchuk brothers, actually.
Oh, really? So TSN got it wrong because that's what they were saying is the Inachek brothers today on broadcast.
It was I think it was like 2 years later, so like in 86, in 1986, that it was, that I know Ken Yaremchuk, and I'm forgetting, I didn't write it down. I'm sorry, but Ken Yaremchuk, I do remember him actually playing as a Leaf, and then his brother played, I guess, with the Leafs as well. They played together, for a few games. So, but in this case, Alex Nylander, so he got the contract, obviously, and, hopefully, now he's going to have to. The only issue is he's going to have to clear waivers when if they do have to send him back down again. But anyways, for the moment, he's with the team, and he played tonight versus the game versus Utah, and it was cool because it was the only NHL game on the schedule too. Right? So it was great to kind of like the NHL was pretty much focusing on it on social media, and but I mean. It was kind of like a sleepwalk fest in the first period of the game.
Totally. It's like, talk about not starting on time. Like it definitely had the feeling of a trap game for that first period, especially the power play. Oh my God, initially in that first period, how they totally fell back into their previous habits. And I've never seen anything that slow in my life. It was like molasses, watching molasses flow out there. It was terrible. But by the second period, they turned things around. And it was interesting too that, I think Berube was really feeling the pressure to get them on together. And I didn't think he was going to put them together as quickly as he did.
Not as often, I thought.
And as often,
Yeah. I was surprised that he put them together quite a bit. I mean, Willie played the power play for the full 2 minutes. He's been doing that the last few games, but and so he got the opportunity to play on the power play too. But yeah, no, they both. I mean, Willie and basically Marner started it. He was on fire tonight, and that goal that he scored to tie the game to make it 1-1, like the pass from Tavares was like that. Was
I know.
It's
like, and when they did the replay, you could hear him say "heads up."
Yeah.
So it's like, I thought
it's coming to you from the other end.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was so great. Anyway, do you think they I actually am thinking this, but I don't know if do you think they should keep them together when Auston comes back? Because they are looking like they did when they first put them together. Remember?
Yeah.
And they were like an unstoppable duo.
It really depends too on what happens with Nick Robertson here. Because a lot of it does. Because although Treliving, I just read today too, they just think it's like the puck luck kind of thing, right? And again, you saw tonight, Robertson had the goal post again, but they're very happy with the way he's playing his all around game, and that. But I mean, I don't know, the guy, he has like a goal in 17 games or however many games. Yeah.
But do you wonder if it's like the kind of thing where if he gets one, then he's just going to go on tear? I mean, that's the thing with him. It's like,
I don't know.
It's like when you're in line to get in somewhere and you don't want to leave the front of the line because as soon as you do, the line's going to move and you're going to get to go in, like it's going to be like that kind of thing with him. Like, that's what happened in the preseason too, he was snake bit until he got one and then he just kept piling them in. I guess that's kind of how they feel like it. They don't want to give up on him prematurely,
Yeah. Well, I guess like Auston Matthews and I guess Matthew Nyes are going to be the two that come back sooner than anybody else, let's just say. So I would think they're going to probably send down Gravenkin, right, of the three players, I would think, because he doesn't have to clear waivers, and so they'll do that. And then I think actually they might, again, they'll send down Minton then because...
I mean, he's going to be caught in that same situation that
he's a center,
Robertson has been caught in. I guess that's true. But
that's the thing. Yeah. So you don't know. But I know Treliving did say that he wanted him to be more like with the Marlies, basically getting more ice time and opportunity that way.
And you can send him down. And there's guys that can play that role up here,
I guess Connor Dewar, he's been pretty good. I get like,
and they'll just put Holmberg back in the middle again.
Yeah. I guess that's probably what they'll do if they were gonna keep Alex Nylander here with the big club. So but it was a cool moment seeing them play together, and the dad was there too, obviously at the game tonight, and So and of course we managed to get 5 goal posts. And so the score was only 3-2, which it should have been a lot more, but it shouldn't have been that difficult to beat this team. But at least we won, and we won regulation too. So considering the fact that Utah too, like they played last night, right? Like they
in Pittsburgh even.
I know they
had to walk to the rink because their bus was caught in traffic. I think there's a lot of stuff going on. All the Swifties were leaving town, so there's that. But then there's also the Santa Claus parade today. So that added extra traffic too. So yes, the poor Utah hockey club had to walk part of the way to the rink from where did they stay? The Delta?
I guess.
Or I guess the Delta Hotel, which is like down the block. I don't know.
Well, I guess they're not as special as Taylor Swift to get the actual closing of the street.
Yes, the motorcade. No motorcade for them. Anyway. Anything else that we want to cover with those two games before we move on?
I think that's good. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it was a light schedule. They had a chance to practice, which is good. And I think Berube also mentioned that. So,
yeah, it's good because they had, obviously with so many different players too, it's good to have that practice time to try and.
Yeah, to get a little bit of chemistry going.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to switch gears now then, and we're going to talk a little bit about the first quarter of the season because we are already there. We are at the quarter pole. U.S. Thanksgiving is this week. And so we want to wish happy Thanksgiving to our friends south of the border as well. So what have you liked so far from the Leafs this season up to now?
So my big thing is the defense. I'm loving this defense. Like it's been years since we've had this kind of defense. I mean, just listen to these stats though. I was like, I couldn't believe. So now they've given up 2 or fewer goals in 12 of their 21 games that they played this season. The goals allowed per game is 2.5, which is tops in the Atlantic. And
I think it's 4th in the league.
Yeah, I think it is 4th in the league. And then for this last one I just saw tonight, NHL defensive pairings with lowest expected goals against, a minimum 150 minutes played together, 5-on-5. We have 2 in the top 10. And that's Jake McCabe and Chris Tanev and Riley and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Like we have 2 in the top 10.
Yeah, it's been a few years since I've been this relaxed when the opposing teams are in our D zone. So I don't get as stressed out as I used to.
And Chris Tanev, my Macedonian hero there, he's 67 block shots. He's only 1 behind on the tops in the league, basically 1 behind Rasmus Anderson of Calgary. So he's right there. And I mean, I don't think Jake McCabe is getting enough love too. Like
I agree with that.
Yeah, he's
settled his game down a lot. Like even since the beginning of last year, like the beginning of last year, he was still kind of finding himself in, doing too much and playing outside of himself and, caught out of position sometimes, but not anymore. Like, yeah, I think like since it's even before he got that contract, it was like the second half of last year.
Playing well. Yeah,
he was a lot better. And yeah, he's really come into his own there, I think.
Yeah. And basically he's 12th in the league right now for defensemen with 44 hits. And he averages over 20 minutes of ice time per game this year. And, it's a great shutdown pair that we've got there with him and Tanev. And then Connor Timmins is actually kind of a surprise. I don't know. He's managed to basically push Liljegren to San Jose out of the lineup and out of Toronto. And the only thing I think what it is it's the injuries that has basically affected like how we see or how I see him as a player, because he's almost like Joseph Wall, whereas like he's not in the lineup long enough and finally he's healthy and he's playing really well. He's he's a pretty big guy and he moves the puck well. He's a great skater. And I'm impressed with him too. And he has Berube's trust. So when you can get Craig Berube's trust that way, I think it's and they're our buddy there, Simon Benoit.
I was just gonna say, he's with his taxi buddy and his coffee buddy.
That's true. Yeah. But I mean, he's been out. Benoit has been out of the lineup because Hakanpää. I found it a little bit, well, not that funny, but it was just. I think Benoit's best game was versus Vegas for the whole season.
Oh, for sure. His
first game back from being out of the lineup for 2 games. And he really showed that he wants to be in the lineup. He wants to be in there and be with his buddy, like you said, his coffee buddy.
I think he is a rise to the occasion kind of guy. And I think that's, when he has to prove himself, he's more than happy to oblige, like that's kind of how he's made it this far in the league, So when he's counted out, that's when he tends to, I think, play his best for sure.
Yeah. And the only thing I'll say about Morgan Rielly is that basically he's starting to shoot more. I'm noticing that a lot. He's now 10.8% shooting percentage, which is tops for our defensemen anyways, right? So he's for this season. So yeah. So I don't know. I'm liking it's all positives. We've talked about Oliver Ekman-Larsson last show. Yeah, I'm just liking the group as a whole. And Hakanpää, well, when he has been in the couple of games, he's played good too. He's played pretty good for coming back from, like, obviously it was like a knee injury there, so it's going to take some time, but he's played well. Mm-hmm. What have you liked so far?
Well, I'm going to stay with the back end, and I have to give a shout out to my goalies. Yeah. And you're
a goalie hugger.
I am. I'm a goalie hugger. After even a little bit of a shaky start for Wall, he has settled down very, very nicely. And those two guys are really showing everybody what they're made of. And in fact, if we're going to go by NHL stats, NHL leaders, who leads for goals against average? Can you guess?
Is it? For the team though, right?
No, I'm talking in the NHL.
Isn't it Stolarz?
No, it's actually Wall now.
Really?
Yeah, he's got a goals against of 2. And Stolarz also is in the top 4 with 2.18. And the two guys that are in between are Hellebuck, not too shabby, and Gustafsson for Minnesota. So, yeah, they're doing pretty well as a tandem. And I think that, any game, we're okay. You're going to get the stops. Like, did you see that one stop he made? Like, oh my God, that was the game-saving goal.
Yeah,
like, shot there.
For Utah tonight, right?
Yeah.
Like, Utah game. Yeah, it was funny, though, because the TSN broadcast didn't catch it until the replay. Mm-hmm. But I saw this when he stretched out and got the toe against the post. And I'm thinking to myself, just as long as everything's okay and we don't hear anything tomorrow to say something bad happened there. Yeah. Right? So,
but Stolarz actually does lead the league for save percentage at 927. So,
and that'll be fun to see. He's probably going to start the game versus Florida.
Yep,
his old team. But they were thinking that he might start tonight, but then they were saying also that I guess he's halfway already to his career high of games played. Mm-hmm. So he's already played 12 games.
No, I think that I'm glad that they played, Wall in 2 starts in a row.
Games. Yeah.
Because exactly for that reason, he's still coming back from an injury. He does need the reps as well. And there's no need to overwork Stolarz when both of them are playing well. So we have a very steady tandem right now. And on any given night, these guys are performing. So, I don't see a big difference. Like in the past few years, we've had guys that played well, but I don't see a difference in the way the team plays in front of each of them. It's the same.
Yeah, that's true.
And how long has it been since we've had that where you've got 2 guys that it's no matter who's in net, you're getting the same performance in front of them.
From the players in front of them,
which to me speaks to how calm they are back there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're very steady.
And that calmness is going out to the team basically in front of them. Mm-hmm. And they're just playing together as a team that way.
Yep.
Yep. No, we're liking the back end. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right. So what worries us as we head into the next stretch of games in December and January? What's your worry?
Well, I would have to say that my worry is the secondary scoring right now. And some of it has to do with all the injuries that we have. And the other part of it is that after, we started strong in that department with, decent amount of goals. In fact, we were so surprised. We were like, oh my God, this is amazing. But it's really dried up, and it still goes back to that third line that we just can't really find an identity. And I think that third line is key for playoff success. So I don't know if this Alex Nylander experiment is going to pay dividends that way, or if Fraser Minton is going to end up, being the solution at that center spot or what. But if they're not going to get something out of those guys potentially, they're going to need to they need to make a move anyways at some point.
Yeah. Because this is the guy that we missed earlier, saying when we were talking about guys going back through waivers and that, going back to the Mars, is Max Domi. Yeah. That's the guy he's probably going to be ready to come back possibly Wednesday or the weekend. And that's another guy. But he hasn't produced, right?
I know.
It's 13
That's
games.
Why
Pointless.
That's why I kind of feel like he played really great up with Matthews last year. And I don't know why with Marner and Tavares clicking so well right now that you wouldn't want to give Max a shot up there with him again.
Yeah.
See what you can get out of him.
Yeah, because 13-game pointless streak before he went on the IR. Robertson has the 1 goal in 17 games. Holmberg has 1 goal in 18 games, the empty net goal versus Vegas. And but this just, I guess it's the kids basically. This Fraser Minton, Nikita Grabenkin, and Alex Steves. He played pretty good.
I was going to say, underrated, really played well tonight.
Yeah, like this is a big
Not
opportunity
flashy, but he played really well defensively tonight.
Yeah, but that's a big opportunity for all those guys. Maybe one of them to try and stay and fit in that third line, right? Or in the bottom 6 somehow, because we got to get something from them. There's no, you can't go through the playoffs without it. Like there's just no way. And that's been the problem within the playoffs all the time. Lack of scoring.
Because that is where when your main guys get double teamed and there's so much focus put on them, they're going to score less because it's just natural. I mean, it does. You can look at any team like Connor McDavid's usually held pointless in some games. Draisaitl had a little bit of drought during the Stanley Cup final last year. Like those guys are going to be focused on, and you're going to need the third line to come through because they're going to be facing the less stiff competition. So you need to get production there. So that is
it's
probably
a different game
because
it's a different game in the playoffs, right?
Absolutely.
And so you need those grinders to come through, basically.
So I'm going to mention this. I don't know what you're going to think about it. But I've been hearing that there is interest
I already know what you're
in a guy that was not the right guy for our second center, but now he's the perfect third center. And that would be Kadri, and for Living was the guy who brought him to Calgary. So, I mean, Calgary's doing pretty well right now.
His
so I don't know.
Contract sucks though. Really.
Yeah, that is the problem. But they would have to retain, I think, potentially.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I don't know if they would make that deal because there's still probably that, don't want to trade with Toronto thing. But would he not be a great fit on the third line right now, though? Come on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Center iceman, and he can win the draws, and he's has that nastiness in him.
He is the perfect guy.
And he's learned to win, basically. And he's won it all. And so to bring that back here again, but I don't think it's going to happen only because the whole salary cap
it's interesting.
It is, yeah.
Anyway, what is your biggest worry going into the second or the second
my
quarter?
worry is Auston Matthews. So not to say I think he's going to be perfectly fine coming back and playing like the way the superstar that he is, but it's more about, I guess, this injury that he has, this mystery injury, and he went all the way to Germany to get, I guess, assistance, but with it. And it's just this upcoming Four Nations face-off thing. Like, I don't want him to go there and potentially put more of a strain on his body and possibly aggravate anything there while there. And then he's going to, I want him to be more devoted to the Maple Leafs, basically, and not this is just an NHL tournament that doesn't really mean anything. It's not the Olympics.
But
I know it's international hockey.
And it means something to them. This is the first time he gets to suit up for USA. And you look at it in a positive. If they do well, that actually could catapult something, for the Leafs as well.
It's just, I guess we don't know. And so for me, it's just that whatever this injury is, I mean, I don't know, maybe it will be fine, right? Like he says that he's much better it's like day and night.
Looking at his skating before he went to Germany to now, I mean, he looks like a different guy. So obviously he got some kind of stem cell injection there that he can't get here because you have to have only certain conditions. There's a lot of regulations.
Okay.
That is a doctor that he's dealt with before. So my thinking is that it might be back because I know he had back trouble when he was in the Swiss League. And if he dealt with that doctor, maybe it's that. Mm-hmm. So that kind of thing, it can constantly flare up, but I think that they're going to take their time with him. So, and he is also very careful. Yeah. So he is not coming back until he feels like he's right. Because if that was the case, that wasn't the case. He already would have been back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Because this is something he's been playing with anyway.
Yeah, it's just,
I understand
it's
your
more
concern,
about that.
though.
And it's that part of the season too, right? It's February. So it's closer to the playoffs, right?
Exactly.
I mean, if it was now, if it's coming up even in January, like at least there's like a little bit of time after if something did flare up, he could go back to Germany and do whatever he needs to do to get himself better again. But I don't know. Anyways, I mean, we do want him back. Obviously, we're a much better team with the captain than without him. So that's my worry. But what do we have next?
Well, the only other thing I would say about that, and it's not just about Auston, it's just I'm still worried about all these injuries because.
Well, yeah. In general, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if any of it is cap massaging too, because there could be some of that, that there's some guys that are going to be out a little longer than maybe they have to or whatever. So
you mean load management?
Yeah.
Too?
Well, no, and cap management because they're trying to, have as much cap room as they potentially can.
It's funny. I thought you said cat.
No.
Anyway, sorry. I need to clean my. That's okay. All right.
Anyway,
no. We hope that. Well, hopefully the infirmary will be getting less busy as this week goes on. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to look a little bit more at the NHL at large then as well. And are there any surprises for you from any of the other NHL teams during the first quarter of the season?
Nashville. That's all it is Nashville. I can't believe they're now. Actually, it's funny because when I told you I was picking Nashville, because to tell the listeners we don't want to duplicate or pick the same team out of 32 teams. But Nashville, like they were in last place on Saturday, basically. But today now because they won last night, they beat Winnipeg. So I must have been a good luck charm for them or something because they're now 29th in the league overall.
Woohoo! They moved up a few notches.
The thing is, I watched a little bit of, there's actually a Nashville podcast with two women as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I was listening to a little bit of it, but the hilarious part of it, and this was from, I guess, after Wednesday's game versus Seattle. And the little girl, she started the show banging her head on her desk.
Oh my God. That sounds so very familiar. We've been there.
We've never gone on camera.
No.
We've never gone on camera, though, banging our head on the desk. I was just like,
the Leafs,
oh my.
When we started this podcast, the Leafs have never been that bad. So that's probably why.
Yes, so.
But then we have had those moments, many of them throughout the decades.
And when I saw that, I guess I'll mention their names. I wrote it down here. It's Ann Kimmel. She was the one banging her head on the desk, and Emma Lindgren. They do Locked on Preds, I guess is their podcast.
We feel for you, ladies.
Yeah,
we feel your pain.
But I mean, it's bad when they take a penalty to start the game because they didn't start the right lineup. Right? Like that's what they did versus Seattle on Wednesday. They got a penalty. Stamkos was supposed to be on the ice, but Forsberg was on to start instead. So it's like, where are their heads at when they don't, the starting lineup is
think that
wrong.
There's any friction between those two? Because Forsberg's so used to being the man and Stammer comes in there and I mean, that coach has got to be on thin ice.
Yeah,
no?
Andrew Burnett. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's basically what they were talking about.
Especially with that kind of penalty, that is like a bench that means no one's ready to start on time.
Yeah.
Not the coaching staff, not the players. I wonder what the fans are yelling there right now, because
most of them were saying, when I looked on X, I was looking at some of the comments, and they were just saying like it's like pathetic hockey. Like it sounds like they have no emotion. There's just like I did see on NHL Network, they did, I guess, some review of like highlights of their games, and most of the time, like they're saying, it's just they're not going to the front of the net. They're like, it's just they're taking shots that the goalie can just see. They're easy shots, and but most of the fan stuff is that they don't have any intensity basically in the game. They're just not showing any emotion.
What about O'Reilly?
The big guys,
came through.
Yeah.
What about O'Reilly potentially coming back here for a third for another go? Because apparently, like from what I heard, part of his not wanting to come back had to do Keefe.
Yeah, I know.
And he played for Berube, so he won a cup for the guy. So I wonder about that.
Yeah.
That's another guy that could fulfill that third line center role.
Yeah, I know. I heard that same thing too, but that was where the friction was. But we'll see what happens. But Nashville, I don't know what's their GM's name there. They were the former coach.
Barry Trotz.
Yeah, Barry Trotz. Yeah. I don't know what he's going to do. We'll see what happens. But
maybe he has to go back to coaching.
Yeah, you never know. He'll fire the coach
he could pull Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah.
And go behind the bench for a while.
Yeah.
Never know.
Even our rest in peace, Pat Quinn. Like he was our GM and coach for a while.
Sometimes you just can't trust other people to do the job, so you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. All right. So what's your surprise NHL team?
I'm going into the positive, and it really came down to it. I was going back and forth. Ultimately, I went with the Washington Capitals because, well, first of all, the team's doing really well. We actually leapfrogged them tonight, but before our game today, they were actually ahead of us in the standings. They have like a really great goal differential, and Ovechkin is a man renewed. And I think
but now he's out.
Yeah, I know he's hurt, but
and he'll be out for a while. That's why.
But
I'm cutting you off right there, but still.
But the thing is, though, that actually lit a fire under them, even if he is out right now for a while, whatever.
Yes.
I still think that they've been playing really well.
But you know who it lit a fire under, which I was shocked when I was looking up stuff, is that PLD. Pierre-Luc Dubois, the guy who travels to many places. He's actually playing really well. He seems to have found a home there, finally. But anyways,
I think so. And you don't have to be so mean about it. I don't know. Anyway, the other option that I had was another team that was doing really well was Calgary. And they're same, they're basically right behind Washington in the standings. I just didn't go with them ultimately because I don't really trust them yet.
Yeah.
So
Washington has a little bit more of a winning mentality because
and they have a little bit more of a veteran team. And of course we have Rasmus Sandin there, and he's doing pretty well. And so I just thought that they had such a couple down years, and they started the season really strong. So this is a first quarter segment that we're talking about. Yes, I know Ovi's hurt right now and things could turn the corner, but for this first 20 games, they've done pretty well.
Yeah.
And he has 25 points.
And I like their coach too, our former assistant.
Yeah. And that's another reason he's getting a lot of pub too. So, and deservedly so.
Yeah. I listened to his Spencer Carberry that we're talking about here, but I listened to some of his pressers and that, and he's a smart dude. I wish it made me think. I wish we could have the interviews here with the assistant coaches as well. I was like if we would have heard from him when he was an assistant under Keefe. Like, I don't know. I don't know why the Leafs do that. They don't let the assistants talk to the media for whatever reason. Anyway.
No, and the thing is when he left our team, that left a hole. Like our power play went into the dumpster for a
Yeah.
while. So, and they were trying to find different coaches to run that. And so he did leave a void there, and he's doing a great job there. So,
yeah. All right. So now back to the Leafs and back to the present. And it was only a couple of games, but we always have a star of the week. So who did we pick for our star of the week, Sil?
Well, this time around, we're going with Joseph Woll. And he's played great these last two games. He got the shutout against Vegas, which that was a game that they really dominated. And Vegas is first in their division. So that was a really, really big game against a tough opponent. And he's just really settled down. So I think he's very, very deserving. And we've already gone over his stats. He leads the league in goals against. So he's really coming into his own.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, he was off all of October, technically, right? Like he injured. And I mean, to come back now and to play the way he is playing for us. And I guess this is the second time this season that he's played like 2 games in a row. So you can see it slowly ramping up, and that's a good thing. Like, it's good to see Berube managing like the load for both of them, for Anthony Stolarz and Woll. But yeah, no, he's, I guess he made against Vegas. I mean, they're tops in the Pacific Division. So they're like that game that he played, he had 25 saves. And, yeah, it was just, and even that loss that he had in St. Louis, like he didn't let, to me, it wasn't his fault, basically, obviously. But he doesn't, he's just that kind of guy that it's like, whatever, it just lets him pass. I mean, we saw him at the Global Series in front of us, the way he presents himself in front of the media and that, right? Like he's just a very calm, chill kind of guy. And he just goes on to the next one. I mean, you're not going to have a great game every night, right? So
yeah, he's really got his head together. And, for such a young guy, just to basically let stuff roll off of him like that, pretty great. And like we said, like you can tell, the way guys play in front of him, he's always going to keep them in the game as best as he can. And now like he's got a shutout as well. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And he's very, very deserving being our star of the week.
Absolutely. All right. So we're not going to predict when players are going to come back from injury, if only we could. But we will say we just want to see that it happens soon. It's still a light schedule this week for the Leafs. So if you're going to have injuries, it's not really a bad time to have them. And the guys are going to get the rest that they need. And there are 2 games this week, though, that we have coming up are pretty big ones. First up, the Florida Panthers on Wednesday night. And the Leafs are only 1 point up on the Panthers right now for first in the Atlantic. And then actually, I think we're 3 points
up
now
we're 3 points with
after this win tonight. So a little bit of a cushion, but not really. And then we are also going to play the Lightning on Saturday night. So this is one of our Florida trips. We expect a lot of Leaf fans in attendance. So cheer loud. And anyway, the Lightning are, we're going to be playing them Saturday, and they are 4th in the Atlantic right now.
And that game versus the Lightning, we need to be like on, because they actually play on the Friday night. So they're coming home. They're on the road Friday night. I didn't write down who they're playing, but they are playing. And so on the Saturday night, we should be ready to go in the first period to start on time and just just get,
I kind of want them to not even think about that, because I feel like when they think about those things and they're like, oh yeah, then
they still, as it from a fan perspective, that's what I'm saying.
They definitely have to start on time and take advantage of that for sure.
And the Panthers, they're playing. I guess they're playing. I know they're playing tomorrow on Monday night. They're playing somebody in Florida, though. They're at home. But yeah, that's going to be definitely a hard game. It'll be interesting to see
big game
how
for
that goes.
Stolarz on Wednesday.
Yeah. Big game for Anthony Stolarz playing his former team on Wednesday.
Yeah.
At least we expect that. All right. And then the following week, it's going to go back to a much busier schedule with a few games at home on the Monday night. They're going to be
Every
playing
other
Connor
night
Bedard.
again.
Yeah. Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks visit Scotiabank Arena. And then next Wednesday night, the Nashville Predators come to town. Those Nashville Predators that I was just saying. Hopefully I didn't jinx anything by saying how horrible they are.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are two games that we should win again. Like Chicago is just awful. And good old Tyler Bertuzzi coming back to Toronto, right? So we'll see what happens there. And and Nashville, like I said, they've been going through some troubles, but all teams coming through Toronto, they always want to beat the Leafs, right? Lots of always hometown players, and So it's going to be busier next week, and we'll be back next week with a full-length episode of Ladies Talking Leafs. In the meantime, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment on YouTube or social media. Our handle is at LTL1917. Let us know your thoughts on the show or the Leafs in general. If you're listening on Spotify, just scroll down just below the show description to leave us a comment and answer our poll question if you can. And you can also listen to us on the Believe Network. And don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you listen or watch our show, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app.
And don't forget to check out our Ko-fi page at kofi.com/LTL1917. We have a photo gallery where you can see some of our memories from Maple Leaf Gardens and the road trips that we've been on over the years. While visiting our Ko-fi page, please consider supporting our show by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages.
And as always, we want to take time to thank our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs, presented by Bet Online. Till next time, go Leafs, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?